Welcome to World Combat Sports. Hello, everyone. This is Scotty White of World Combat Sports. And of course, today, my topic of discussion is the one and only, the GOAT himself, Jon Bones Jones. I know a lot of you have been watching the news, of course. And those of you that follow MMA, mixed martial arts in various organizations, whether it be, the Professional Fight League, UFC, Bellator. What's going on, Tony Burgess, man? What's good? Burgess Boxing Fitness in the building. You should have heard the incident that just went down with Jon Jones. But first of all, I want to give a shout out to the World Combat Sports supporters. Appreciate y'all for supporting the channel and tuning in. And I'm going to read a short article dealing with Jon Jones' recent DWI incident and his reasoning for why it all went down the way it did. So this is from MMA Junkie, right? One of the premier mixed martial arts media outlets and news carriers. So I just want to read you what they put. It said police body cam footage shows UFC light heavyweight champion. Hold on for a second. Police body cam footage shows UFC light heavyweight champion Jon Jones in an apparent drunken and somber state during his arrest Thursday in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Jones was arrested on 4 charges, including aggravated DWI and negligent use of a firearm. In the early morning hours Thursday, he was booked and released by the Albuquerque Police Department. On Friday, MMA Junkie obtained body cam footage of Jones' arrest from the district attorney. I wish they'd give me that privilege. And which can be seen above. Okay, they have the video here on MMA Junkie. It says Brian Johnson, according to the police report, approaching a black SUV. Jones is sitting in the driver's seat and is asked if he had been drinking. Jones admits to alcohol usage, saying he had a drink of vodka early in the day. The officer asked Jones to follow his finger with his eyes. When you're doing a field sobriety test, right? They ask you to, follow the finger with the eyes and all this other nonsense. From there, Johnson asked Jones to step out of the car. Jones is patted down and asked to perform a series of sobriety tests. Jones tells the officer he has a short-term memory loss and attention deficit disorder, ADD, causing him to restart a walking test. Let me read this again. Jones is patted down and asked to perform a series of sobriety tests. Jones tells the officer he has short-term memory loss and attention deficit disorder, causing him to restart a walking test. When asked what he was doing out during a time when New Mexico is under a stay-at-home order due to the coronavirus pandemic, Jones said he was going stir crazy at home and wanted to go for a drive. He added that he was walking to homeless people who were on the side of the road. He added that he was talking, he was talking to homeless people who were on the side of the road. I got stir crazy. This is Jon Jones again, and I quote, I got pulled over just for being nice. Being nice to the homeless people, Jones said. I literally just got stir crazy. I just wanted to have a drive. This is my first drive in 2 weeks, and I saw these homeless guys. I was being nice to them, having a conversation with them, treating them like humans. Officer Johnson asked Jones to perform alternative tests, including counting exercises in the alphabet. He then handcuffed and is informed that he's being placed under arrest. Go figure, right? A seemingly emotional Jones is loaded into the back of a police cruiser, and his voice appears to crack as he makes a request to the officer. Sir, it's not too much. Could you roll down the window, he asked. Jones is no stranger to running with the law. In 2012, he avoided jail time on a misdemeanor DWI charge. I'll read that again. That's what I'm getting to. In 2012, he avoided jail time on a misdemeanor DWI charge caused by running his Bentley into a utility pole in upstate New York. Jones' next major incident came in April 2015. And that's what I'm going to get to later. It was a hit and run incident. Left a pregnant woman with a broken arm and resulted in him being stripped of his UFC title. Accumulation, right? I mean, this is an intrusive track record that John Jones has. This past September, Jones pleaded no contest to a battery charge for allegedly slapping a waitress at a strip club, choking her, kissing her, and touching her after she asked him to stop. The 90-day deferred sentence included in order to avoid arrest and stay away from alcohol. Once again, let me read this again. This past September, we in 2020, Jones pled no contest to battery charge for allegedly slapping a waitress at a strip club, choking her, kissing her, and touching her. The 90-day deferred sentence, including the order to avoid arrest and stay away from alcohol. That deferred sentence ended in late December. Jones is currently due in court April 8th. So his deferred sentence, 90 days, exhausted in December 2019, which is great on his part. And then, leading up to this particular incident of John Jones in another DWI, I would give you my take on the whole situation. So let me get back over here. Let me just get back into my YouTube and all that. Just give me a minute. So for the fight fans just tune in, check this out. John Bones Jones, considered one of the greatest mixed martial artists to ever grace the cage. That is by fact, based off his resume and who he's basically went up against in his tenure of combat sports, competing in combat sports. And we're talking about some top tier names, y'all. We're talking about the creme de la creme of mixed martial arts. It's no freaking, contemplating on whether this opponent was that, this, and the other. He's not only faced some of the top tier opponent, but he faced two of the best twice. You know what I'm saying? He's faced Daniel Cormier, who some considered the GOAT too. You know, Daniel Cormier, in a sense, is basically one of those guys where, he came from Strikeforce over to the UFC and he was undefeated and competed in the light heavyweight division and took his first loss against none other than John Jones, right? But combat sports in general, you have to understand, is not one of those sanctified sports that it comes in with prerequisites for individuals to be on good behavior. And I say that again, it doesn't demand that you be on good behavior. We're talking about combat sports once again. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about combat sports, people. We're talking about contact sports. Combat sports and contact sports. Within every contact sport that you know of, I'm talking about the one considerably like football, martial arts when it comes to mixed martial arts, boxing, rugby. There's so many contact sports that's out there, right? And you get behavior from fighters that go through these particular processes where they continue to get in trouble. We see it in boxing. We see it in mixed martial arts. I'm just going to stick with those two areas, those two lanes, because I'm going to make it simple because that's what I cover. With John Jones, in a sense, man, he's been given so many freaking chances. And I really hope this doesn't derail and put him outside of his final comeback as far as his title reign. I really hope it doesn't do that. I'm hoping this is not the conclusion to someone who's been trying so hard to please the fans. He tries hard to please the fans. Seriously, John Jones has tried hard to ignore the fact of his troubled past and please the fans, right? Just a little history about John Jones. Outside of his troubles in the street, I just read you a couple over here at MMAJunkie.com, right? But I want to talk about his fighting career. What he's been able to go through. Him coming on deck, finally getting a title shot against Mauricio Hua. And for the hardcore old school fans, you know who Mauricio Hua is. So to the new school cats, they not so much. They just know Mauricio, UFC, former world champion. Okay. But they don't know the old school Mauricio Hua before he stepped into the UFC. So, an ex-good friend of John Jones, Rashad Evans, pulled out of the fight with Mauricio Hua. And John Jones stepped in. And that started the beginning of John Jones' epic, status for his title runs and the GOAT status. That he would just be so domineering in mixed martial arts. That right there began his rise in the sport of mixed martial arts. So he went in there and defeated Mauricio Hua, right? And then he went on to face fighters like Rampage Jackson, Lyoto Machida, Rashad Evans, Daniel Cormier, Glover Teixeira. We're talking about household names, man. Look, Alexander Gustafsson. We're talking about a guy who went on a title run. And he not only went on a title run, but he went up there breaking records that used to be held by Tito Ortiz. Tito Ortiz at one point in time was the man. You know what I'm saying? He was the one that was notable for his, his performances in mixed martial arts. He's one of the pioneers, man, the trendsetters. Real talk. Tito Ortiz, man. So when John Jones was up to the point of defeating Daniel Cormier for the first time they fought, right? He was set to face what many considered would have been John Jones one of his toughest bouts. It would have been tough to the point where you're talking about Anthony Rumble Johnson, who had strength, power, and he was kind of, how you put it, not unpredictable, but underrated, I would say. Dude had power. And, he had pretty decent kicks whenever he chose to do it. But his hands more so was what his opposition was fearful of. So John Jones was scheduled to face Anthony Rumble Johnson. And prior to that, the fight was called off because he decided to be in a hit and run incident, fled the scene. That's what they was talking about with the pregnant woman being injured. Not only did he flee the scene, people, that he returned to the scene of the crime and picked up some money and then left again. So that's two instances where he could have did what was right. He chose not to do what was right. I could give him excuses for a lot of things, but ultimately he chose wrong on two occasions. He had a pair of opportunities to go out here and do what was right, and he didn't do it. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to you being in a hit and run, and he didn't know it was a pregnant woman in there, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'll take that back. I can't make up excuse of what John Jones didn't know and what he was into, but I really don't know the whole extent of John Jones, how far he was down, down the hill in his career, his life, when all this started to happen. Because this incident right here is what put really him in the UFC on notice. This incident with him being one of the top tier fighters in the UFC, for him to leave the crime scene and then come back to pick up some money and then leave again. A lot of people looked at him as a scoundrel, man. Like a lot of him looked at him as he was just a grimy dude. Like he just didn't care. Mischievous type of individual. Any type of word you can use, that's what they looked at John Jones. I mean, we're talking about a guy who can have the crowd booing him 1 minute and cheering him the next upon his return. Because without John Jones, the sport was missing what he was able to deliver. The sport was missing it, y'all. And a lot of times people are just like looking for that villain that they love to hate. And John Jones is that guy. So in 2015, man, he gets in a hit and run accident, and he gets suspended for 6 months. Like a lot of people, it's like, shit, he only got suspended for 6 months, man. That's small. That's small beans in the bucket. So he gets suspended for 6 months, and then he returns, right? He loses his title. That's the first time he was stripped of his light heavyweight title. So he returns. And therefore, everybody is awaiting for him to compete against the current champion. You know what I'm saying? Because right now you're talking about a champion that has been in there with John Jones. So in the process, right, him being stripped of the title, then turned around and only being suspended 6 months. When he came back, it's supposed to have been a rematch, but DC, the current light heavyweight champion at the time, he had like a foot injury or something like that, or whatever the case may be. He might not even wanted to fight. He wanted to stall Jones out, whatever the case. But John Jones went and fought OSP over in St. Preux for the interim light heavyweight title. That was an easy fight for him, even though he went the distance. I mean, it was an easy fight. Over in St. Preux, man, he was just one of those opponents that's durable enough to go the distance with John Jones. And then in July of 2016, I believe, he finally supposed to step in there with DC for the rematch. And what happens? What happens, people? June, a test comes back positive for violation of doping substance, right? So the fight is taken off the schedule. John Jones is once again in the spotlight for the wrong reason. And you're saying to yourself, man, after all the time he's taken to basically get back to this point, to finally step in there for the championship, it gets pulled because in June of that year, he tests positive for banned substance by USADA. This is out of competition test, y'all. Out of competition. John Jones tests positive. So he's coming off a hit and run. Then he's testing positive for banned substance. And he has to go before the people again and face his damn judgment. And he gets placed on a 1-year suspension again, people. This is absolutely insane for the people who was wishing, hoping John Jones has come back to the fray and just start busting heads, right? This is what everybody was waiting on, because John Jones is an exciting fighter. I mean, you look at his resume, the man did everything that was requested of him as a mixed martial artist. So he popped positive out of competition. He popped positive. They suspended him for a year. During that year, he ended up having a grappling match with Dan Henderson, which is a wrestler, but I don't see him too much being a grappler. Once again, underrated on the ground, but John Jones ended up choking him out via arm triangle choke. So he gets to return. He's been stripped of the title twice, right? Once of the light heavyweight title, once of the interim light heavyweight title. So finally he returns, and his suspension was kind of retroactive. I believe his suspension that time around was from July 7th all the way up to the next year. John Jones would return to face Daniel Cormier, I believe December of, 2018. I believe December 2018. He stepped in there, 17. So he went in there and stepped in to face DC for a rematch. Goes in there and finished DC in the third round. I mean, a beautiful finish. You know what I'm saying? DC was being, groomed for the low-level kicks from John Jones the entire fight. And John Jones decided not to go to the body per se, the mid-body. He decided to throw a left roundhouse up top on the right side of DC's body, clipping him in the head, knocking him to the cage, and then landing a barrage of punches and end up getting the fight finished. He's on top of the world again, people. John Jones is on top of the freaking world. He can't be stopped. This is what everybody's been doing. What's going on, Link? What's good, man? Keith Miles. What's good? Body head in the house. Shout out to Keith Miles, man. Keith Miles, James Dunn. Salute to you. Didn't see y'all over there. Hey, don't hesitate to hit that thumbs up button. But getting back to John Jones, right? Once he won that title from DC, this is what everybody been waiting for, man, because John Jones is one of the baddest men on the planet. They wanted to see him step back in there and face DC, who was the current champion. Once again, DC was able to step in there when John Jones was out. You know what I'm saying? When John Jones was supposed to face Anthony Rumble Johnson and he ended up getting that hit and run, DC was able to step in there. And he ended up subbing Anthony Rumble Johnson via RNC, right? So when he finally got back in there for the rematch with Daniel Cormier, the only loss on DC's record was John Jones. He went in there, handled business, and finished him with a high kick. Now, apart from everything else, the post-fight was pretty cool, pretty respectful. Sportsmanship shown by John Jones. Basically said, guess what? I know we got our issues, but I'm just, I wish DC nothing but the best. And the MMA community was starting to basically grow into liking John Jones again. You know what I'm saying? Supporting the champ. Because he was that guy, y'all. They was just starting to get warm about John Jones again. Say, okay, we can trust him. He went in here and did what he did. And then guess what? August came around. Violation of A and B sample of Turinabol. He pops dirty on the test again on both samples. This time it was a whole lot more, is a bit more complex, people, because when it came down to him already popping dirty for banned substance, but this time around, you're talking about the 6-month suspension for hit and run. You're talking about the other situations before that, as far as his criminal history goes. But we're talking about the hit and run. Then we're talking about him popping dirty, out of competition, derailing his rematch with DC on his return, right? And then this time around, popping positive again. This wasn't going to be so easy for him. He had to go speak to some people. He had to go plead his case. Like, people was actually believing that if John Jones was given the maximum, which was like 48 months, y'all. Y'all know how long 48 months is? That's 4 years. John Jones in his 30s, gone for 4 years. His career is just about over. His career is just about over, y'all. And I'm gonna tell you why it was so important for him to not get that 48 months. John Jones did for the UFC just as Tito Ortiz did, but on a higher level. John Jones took the sport to a different stratosphere because he was everything that the fight fans look forward to if they was going to visit a fight card. If John Jones was on the card, they wanted to go see the fight. Dana White knew it, John Jones knew it, and his opposition knew it. They knew if they was in a fight with John Jones, it was going to be a pretty decent payday. And themselves was going to get paid and get the recognition for stepping in there with John Jones. So he has to go through all this complexity, right? Protocol, whatever you had to speak to the people. And in civilian terms, you know, he had to go see the man and the whole damn board or whatever the case. They ended up suspending. They gave him some reduction. Man, they really like gave him the ultimate. Like, the cross was burning, y'all. Look, the cross was burning, and everybody was trying to put John on the cross, man. And then there was a little bit of freaking protesters there saying, no, not just yet. He ain't finished yet. Don't put him on the cross and burn him down just yet. So they gave him some reduction in punishment and ended up giving him 15 months, y'all. Retroactive back to the date when he pulled out of competition. I mean, when the test came back, right? So you take that retroactive, you take it 15 months. Finally, he's returned to the sport again. September, I believe of 2018, I believe. So around September 2018, they announced that John Jones was back and he would be rejoining the UFC as a fighter, a licensed fighter. But let me kind of back up just a little bit and help you understand how tough it was for John Jones. John Jones had to go before the commission. John Jones had to have people vouch for him. Like, not just anybody. He had to have people vouch for him that was important enough to convince the commission, say, hey, let this guy back in as a licensed fighter because he's still that good. He's a money maker. He's a prize fighter, and he's very good at what he does. So for those of you hardcore fight fans like myself that was listening in on this hearing, John Jones had to have a hearing, just like you see in politics, right? He had to go before the commission, man, and explain to them why they should allow him to get licensed as a fighter again. I mean, we're talking about John Jones explaining. Some of the questions he didn't answer, some he did. It was a very complex legality that he had to go, a litigation or whatever you want to call it. The positive thing about it was that we got to see John Jones in a different light, fighting for his life, fighting for his freaking his livelihood, his job, his reputation. Though muddy, though soiled, he was in there fighting for what he knew. You know, the only thing he knew in life, and that was fighting, right? So it comes down to it. We all waiting for the commission to come down with something. And they get down to a point and say, okay, check this out. It was, I forgot. I'm not going to go into how it was a female on the board, a woman. And she was being very critical of John Jones. And I can't blame her for being critical. It always have to be one. I'm serious. It always have to be one person that's critical on the board. And she was really trying to drive that nail through the eyes of John Jones and help him see his wrongdoing, you know, and make him be more remorseful. You know, I guess she wanted to hear the man plea and beg for his life. And John Jones, you know, he maintained his composure. Real talk. So when it came down to hearing the final decision of them granting him access to get his license again, right? And then turn around and they start talking about fines and stuff. And it was very technical, y'all, without getting into the entire wickets of them granting him his license to fight again. I believe they ended up fining John Jones like $250,000, I believe, which for John Jones is not much considerably. He's a repeat offender. So $200,000 is not that much money to go back and work again and to make millions anyway. So they allow him a license to fight again. They fined him, and he had to do some community service. And one thing about John Jones, he wanted to pick and choose his community service. And if I'm not mistaken, he wanted to work with at-risk youths. I'm not sure exactly, but I know it's some back and forth jarring with them wanting him to work where they wanted him to. And then his the guy who's advocating for him, I forgot who he was, but he was trying to say, you know, John Jones, he can pretty much, it'll be a solid community service for him for these hours. So I'm not sure how many hours he had at the time, but they granted him access back to his domain. They allowed him to be licensed as a fighter. I mean, this is one of his toughest days of his life, the toughest process that he ever had to do outside the cage. In the cage, he knows everything there is about fighting, from stand-up game to his multiple striking disciplines, whether it be punches, kicks, to his ground games, wrestling, spinning technique, anything you can imagine, man. John Jones is on par. But sitting in there in front of the commission, not so much. Like, this was out of his league. It took more than him, you know, just talking trash to his opponent, to sit up there and listen to people tell him the truth about himself, right? And I'm thinking to myself, I say, God damn, you know, we get to see John Jones once again, man. This is one of the greatest fighters in this era of mixed martial arts. This is one of the greatest fighters. We get to see him again step into the cage. I wonder how long it's going to last. That's real talk. I just wonder how long it's going to last. So if I'm not mistaken, John Jones was getting ready for a fight where he had some picograms come back, and it flagged his freaking test again. But this time, Dana White is saying, like, hey, check this out. We're not gonna punish John Jones with double jeopardy once more, because he's already been punished. He's just coming off a 15-month suspension. He had to go before a commission. He was fined $200,000. This is what changed the USADA era. What they call it? What was the term they used in court? This is what brought USADA to a point where they have room for error when it comes to testing fighters. John Jones was the guy who basically changed that up, because for a moment, whatever USADA came back with, that's what it was. If USADA came back with your test and it was flagged and it was positive, then guess what? You're being suspended. You tested positive for a banned substance, we're suspending you, right? But when John Jones just coming off what I just mentioned, a fine, 15-month suspension, this next one of his tests came back, flagged again for picograms. And that's when they determined, like, hey, maybe this is leaving his system still. Maybe this banned substance is still leaving John Jones' system. So USADA had to kind of reevaluate their protocol and say, man, it's potentially this may be the case. John Jones, during the process of when he was taking a banned substance, whether it was knowingly or unknowingly, he still was fine, right? It may have still been leaving his system. So therefore, contingent on him taking a test in between fights. I don't know. I don't know how the process works. Wherever the bio labs or test, that comes back, the time frame between that's up to USADA to do all the research. But what I'm telling you is John Jones changed the way USADA basically reviews tests that come back positive. I'm not saying it works out for every fighter, but for John Jones, he was adamant about he's clean, he's not taking anything, and that's what it is. So Dana White made a decision along with USADA and everybody else. He's like, check this out. We already punished John Jones for this, and I believe him. I just don't believe that he's up here still doping. I don't believe it. And I believe something else should be done about how USADA goes about doing the test, whatever the process is. And I appreciated that, because if USADA is up here doing a procedure one way the entire time, and then you have an individual that may be taking a particular banned substance. We don't know the quantity, but he's taking a banned substance. And everybody's body is different. Their anatomy is different. Internal, their organs are different. So if indeed he was clean now, but the particular substance or drug he was using was still leaving his body the properties, could he still test positive for picograms, right? So they allowed the man to fight. So John Jones returns to the sport. At this time, DC has basically elevated his status to another level. And you're probably saying to yourself, like, okay, DC elevated himself to another level. What level can it be besides John Jones, being a champion, this, that, and the other? Well, during the time John Jones was out of the sport, Daniel Cormier was not only a light heavyweight champion, but he went up to heavyweight and stopped Stipe Miocic in one round. Do you know how epic that is? The same Daniel Cormier who lost to freaking John Jones the first time around, lost to John Jones in the rematch, right? For John Jones to return back to the sport, because look, the rematch, they end up reversing that back to a no contest. That what benefited Daniel Cormier for having that second loss on his record. I'm talking about the second loss before he faced Stipe a second time. Daniel Cormier had only lost once until he faced John Jones again and lost again. But since John Jones popped positive, guess what? They switched it to a no contest and gave the belt back to DC. Now, at this point in time, DC had elevated his status as a mixed martial artist and went up there to the heavyweight division and defeated Stipe Miocic in one round. The two was clinched. Very smart on Daniel Cormier, one of these, soft mid-drift type of fighters, look a little pudgy, but is a beast. DC is a beast, man. Olympian wrestler, you know what I'm saying? I mean, dude DC has some of the best hands in mixed martial arts, period. He does. Regardless of him being stopped by Stipe Miocic, he has some of the best hands, right? So he was able to become champ, light heavyweight champ and heavyweight champ. That basically took him to another level, because before that, it was Conor McGregor, who was a featherweight and lightweight champ. You know what I'm saying? Then you had Amanda Nunes, the bantamweight and featherweight females champion. Daniel Cormier, light heavyweight and heavyweight champion. So now John Jones is due to return to the sport, and the wind is picking up. The rumors, the chatter, everybody was like, oh shit, are we going to get to see a trilogy between John Jones and Daniel Cormier? The two truly don't like each other. Very acerbic type of contentiousness between these two fighters. They don't like each other. So we're like, okay, all right. Are they gonna fight for a trilogy? Let's see. because John Jones is up 2-0. You know what I'm saying? Regardless if he popped or not. I was telling people on these freaking on these groups, I say a shin kick to the head is drug free. That's technique, period. I don't give a damn what you say. A shin kick to the fucking head is drug free, right? So the word comes out from Dana White and say DC will be vacating the title, the light heavyweight title, and John Jones will be fighting for the title. Now, when John Jones was coming off suspension, y'all, he was coming back to fight for the title with DC the first time, right? And DC pulled out, so he had to fight Open St. Preux, and then he came in and fought DC. All right, he was coming back, not facing tune-ups. That's what makes him considerably the GOAT. He was coming back to the sport, not taking tune-ups, y'all. The man was coming back off suspension and really wanted to fight the man. But DC pulled off with a foot injury, and he had to end up fighting OSP. Then come back around, he say, I want to fight the champ. Whoever that is, I want to fight the champ. So DC wasn't having it. He really didn't want to fight John Jones no more. We pretty much, I'm not making light of it, but we seen what happened to DC post-fight conference when Joe Rogan interviewed him while he was still buzzed a little bit. Daniel Cormier was emotional, crying. The MMA community made so many freaking memes about this guy. And unfortunately, that's just the lay of the land. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're in the limelight. You have to accept it as it comes. So John Jones come back to fight for the vacant light heavyweight title, and his opponent, the none other than Alexander Gustafsson. Alexander Gustafsson went 5 rounds with John Jones, arguably in the toughest fight that he ever had in the UFC. Height for height, reach for reach, skill for skill. Alexander Gustafsson was that guy who gave John Jones a very solid fight. So guess what? He's finally returning off a 15-month suspension. Fighting. Look, this is how much Dana White wants John Jones to come back to the top. He gives him a freaking title fight. He tells DC, hey, John Jones is on his way back. What's up? You gonna fight him or not? Hey, I can't imagine what the conversation was like. You know, Dana White said, hey, DC, I know you gathered a lot of fans in the absence of John Jones, but now Bones Jones is coming back. Yeah, a lot of people want to see this fight. We're talking about 15 months off, people. 15 month suspension. He's coming back to fight the champ. GOAT status, right? GOAT status once again. And DC was like, nah. You know, DC was talking that retirement crap last year. I'm retiring. I'm retired. My birthday. That's going to be my last fight. Well, guess what, DC? I believe your birthday is this month, right? If you ain't already had it. And I haven't heard anything about retirement. John Jones goes in there and fight Alexander Gustafsson, y'all, and closes the man out in 3 rounds. First time he went the distance, this time 15 months layoff. He comes back in there and fight one of the guys who deserve it. Alexander Gustafsson deserves another one. If it wasn't Gustafsson, it's definitely Anthony Rumble Johnson again, but he's not in the UFC. So therefore, he goes in there and closes out Alexander Gustafsson in 3 rounds, y'all. Dominated. Closes him out. He can't be stopped. He regains the interest of the people, the love of the fans once again. People looking at this guy like, God damn. Like, he was champion. Then he ended up being stripped for outside the cage incident, comes back, pop positive, comes back, has a chance, pop positive. Now he's champion again, right? He steps in there with Anthony Smith, defeats him in a 5-round unanimous decision. Then he goes on to face the next competitor, Thiago Santos. Go 5 rounds with a man who had a torn PCL, ACL, and MCL. Look, I was shocked that Thiago put on such a performance the way he did. I'm not going to lie to you. I was totally shocked that Thiago Santos gave John Jones the business the way he did. It was a very solid matchup, very competitive, strike for strike, strength for strength. I thought Thiago Santos did very well with his hands, and he did stun Jones in the fight. We're talking about a 5-round fight, 5 minutes apiece. And Thiago Santos established his power early, and John Jones was like, oh shit, this dude can bang. He got some sting. All right, I need to ease back a little bit. So then John Jones started playing the distance game, start making sure he stays on the outside and just, try to pack away some rounds, pick apart Santos, and hopefully he starts to degrade during the bout. And Santos, man, even with a hurt leg, even with a hurt knee, he still fought. John Jones did not attempt a takedown, being that Thiago Santos is a black belt in BJJ. He never really attempted a takedown like he did other people. Like even when he fought DC, he attempted a takedown in the 4th and 5th round. Just recently with Dominique Reyes, he attempted a takedown in the 4th and 5th round. And that's what John Jones believes he has as backup if he truly needs it. But he didn't try it with Santos. I think he kind of respected the strength of Santos. He respected him still being danger on his feet. And if John Jones took him off his hurt leg, he would be more dangerous on the ground. So he ended up winning the decision. And then we all saw what happened the last fight. I've had plenty of debates about this last fight. Because John Jones stepped in there with a guy who was 12-0 and Dominique Reyes, right? Former football player. And I'm going to be honest with you. I did underestimate Dominique Reyes. I saw his previous fights, and I was like, okay, they're all right. I haven't really seen anything spectacular yet to go in there and say John Jones has a problem waiting, right? But, man, Dominique Reyes went in there and said and did what he said he was going to do, basically. You know what I'm saying? He didn't say too much, but he went in there and he was first. Anytime that they wanted to start the striking within a round, Dominique Reyes was first with the low calf kicks, with the punches. Dominique Reyes remained first to initiate the contact. And I was like, damn, he's really beating John Jones thinking wise. He's beating him to the punch and the kick. So throughout the fight, I believe the first and the third round, Reyes was very successful in landing those combinations, using his lower level technique with his punch combination sets, mixing it up. I mean, he was keeping John Jones guessing. Like people were saying themselves, John Jones, shit, he about to lose his title for the first time. Like John Jones really about to lose his title via defeat for the first time in his career. We're not talking about the Matt Hamill when he was disqualified. We're talking about legitimate. The performance that Dominique Reyes put on in the first 3 rounds was considerably, in my opinion, enough to win the fight, right? Unless he just didn't go in there in the 4th and 5th round and just lay down. So in the 4th round, the end of the 3rd round, John Jones decided to pick it up a little bit. He went in for a takedown, didn't get it. The bell ring. And then the 4th round, it seems like Reyes was kind of, fatiguing a bit. John Jones picked it up, landed some strikes. Reyes was doing very little. John Jones ended up executing a takedown, completed it. It all goes on the scorecard from there. And then in the 5th round, they exchanged. John Jones, we can say he won that round because he was able to get a takedown also. Ultimately, when it comes to the debates, though, on who actually won the fight, I just thought Dominique Reyes landed the more effective strikes. Like, you have to grade kicks. If you're going to grade John Jones kicks to the front thigh, you have to grade low calf kicks too. If you're going to grade John Jones, punches, because most of the time he's the eye poke king. John Jones have his hands out and goddamn all up in your eye, and you're like, damn, I can't see anything. Somebody find me a freaking tour guide. You know what I'm saying? That's what John Jones is known for, keeping this freaking measuring stick out there and trying to set up something. He's trying to blind his opposition. But Dominique Reyes kept his distance well, man. The way he was landing his 4-punch combinations with kicks, either he start with the kicks or he ends with the kicks. Either way, I liked his movement. I was like, damn, this guy was well prepared for this fight. Now, out of the, I believe is what? It was 21, I guess, media outlets that was grading this fight. Just saying who was won. They was putting scores on who they thought won. And from my understanding, it was like 14, right? It was 14 that gave it to Reyes. And then the other 7 gave it to John Jones. Now, for anybody who's up here, butthurt about saying that John Jones lost, I believe John Jones lost that fight. That's just me. I believe he did. But it was a damn good fight. I'm not going to lie. It was a sleeper, and it was much better than Yoel Romero and Israel Adesanya, period. Now, back to the task at hand about him getting in trouble with this DWI. People, I'm going to be honest. And though we see boxers out here getting in trouble all the time, getting arrested, you know who they are. It's not the first time that we've seen a fighter get in this much back-to-back trouble before. Speaking of mixed martial arts, Conor McGregor, when he was out here doing his buffoonery, man, he was really out here fucking up, dog. Like, seriously, I'm not comparing or devaluing John Jones and what he just was arrested for. But if the man say he was going stir crazy sitting at home, that's something he's gonna have to explain to the judge, man. I don't, catch an Uber, bro. You want to talk to homeless people? Jesus, man, you could have just, they have something in place there, John Jones. They have an order in New Mexico, bro. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you already know that. You know you're not higher than the governor, the mayor, man. They had a stay-at-home policy in effect that included you. So when John Jones have to go in there April 8th to see the judge, he may in fact get jail time, man. I'm not in the, I'm not privy or educated enough to assume what's going to happen with somebody who is a repeat offender like John Jones. But also, when you are a superstar, it has its privileges. Conor McGregor, we've seen him do some things like throw a dolly at a bus and injure 2 other fighters, which end up suing him civilly. And I'm pretty sure Conor McGregor had to come out the pocket with some money for injuring these fighters, Michael Chiesa, Ray Borg, and whoever else that was injured. He tossed a steel dolly at a bus at the MSG and injured some fighters. Could you imagine if John Jones would have did that? Now, how do you balance the two incidents? Like, how do you balance the depth of severity when it comes to them? One, Conor McGregor throwing something that could have ended the fighting career of his compeers in the UFC, mixed martial arts, right? And then you look at John Jones, who basically hit and run and injured somebody, but testing positive twice for banned substance. So let's take away that for the civilian side of the house. That's in-house to the UFC, right? USADA. But we're talking about out of the cage incidents. We're talking about his recent, his past. So you collectively calculate all that together, to now, I think they're going to look back at it and say, you know, we understand, you know, what your status is in the UFC, but we also understand you was a part of the hit and run incident. That is going to lay heavy on those people when it comes to Jon Jones. I'm telling you, people, it's going to lay heavy, man, on their thought process when it comes to Jon Jones. They're just going to be like, hey, something isn't right with this guy. You know what I'm saying? If Jon Jones up here telling the law enforcement that he had ADD, attention deficit disorder, and he's telling him that he has short-term memory loss and he had to restart his steps doing the test. Listen, maybe so, okay? Maybe so. He is in the fight game. I don't know. But I'm just telling you, when he goes before that judge in April, next month, it may be possible that he does time. Though it may be a short period of time, I don't know, man. I'm just looking at all the buffoonery Conor McGregor did with punching an old guy in the local pub, you know, out here smashing a phone. The situation that was involving him and his team with some waitress, him tossing the dolly at the vehicle. I don't know, man. I don't know how to compare and balance those out when it comes to the legality aspect. Either way it goes, man, both of those individuals have a track record. And it's all dependent on if that judge is willing to basically lay down the gavel and max him out, or basically give him a fifth chance. A fifth or sixth chance. And if that particular judge is willing to give Jon Jones a fifth or sixth chance, they're going to also have to be willing to take the backlash they're going to receive. But that's what attorney's for, right? I'm pretty sure with the money Jon Jones has, he's going to come in there with a pretty decent attorney, and they're going to try to peel back and get some of those charges dropped. He may not get the DWI dropped, but somehow, some way, the story was somebody reported a gun being fired. If in fact Jon Jones is out there firing a weapon, I don't know what to say, man. You know, like I don't want to be facetious or sound insensitive to quarantine, right? I really don't. But when I hear people all the time, when it comes to the military life not being all that important, it's just times like this that some people in the military be like, hey, man, welcome to our world. Because it's been a lot of times where we didn't have a choice but to sit around in one area, work with no other way to go. There's no other options for us to go, no source of entertainment. You know what I'm saying? Especially in country. We're in the dirt. We're doing this. You know what I'm saying? We don't have an option. You don't want to deploy. You in trouble. You ain't getting promoted. You got a family you don't want to deploy. This ain't the Muhammad Ali era where you're going to have people praising you for not wanting to deploy. Guarantee that, y'all. You're not going to get praised as a hero for not going on the deployment. Your ass going to be either sitting in the brig, demoted, something. Being read your rights, all that shit. So being on quarantine for Jon Jones to say he's going stir crazy, I can see that. I can see people who really never had to be isolated, who never had to be forced to stay in one area for a period of time. I can understand mentally how they're beginning to break down. That's real talk. I'm being absolutely honest, y'all. I can see where some of these civilians are starting to lose their mind a little bit, lose their sanity, because it's nowhere for them to go and have an outlet, a relief. And with John Jones being an elite fighter, a guy who's in combat sports, who may have some issues, not to make excuses for him. The man had a drink. Unfortunately for him, like we say in the Marine Corps, and once again, I truly don't like comparing military in this case, but good initiative, bad judgment, right? He wanted a drink and he wanted to go out and just have some relief. We don't know the stresses going on in John Jones' life, but for him to go out driving where there's very limited vehicles on the street and to pull over on the side of the road and talk to homeless people, you cannot say that man's sanity is 100%. Who would do that? Who would do that in a sense that you are a celebrity? You are well known. You have been in trouble before. People know you for the right and the wrong reasons, John Jones. Why would you take your vehicle out? Who was there when you left the house? Come on, man. Was your girl there? Did you think about your kids, bro? Like, come on, man. I have to give it to John Jones. Like, bro, did you even think about that? Being a repeat offender, did you think about that before you stepped out? And, once again, people, I'm looking at this situation with individuals not being able to handle this situation as easy as you thought it would be. The first, 3 days, 76 hours, it was all good. Social media is popping. Hey, look, you see people on here going on live that you ain't never see go live before. Because look, they're reaching out, people. They need some company. John Jones probably was looking for some company. The gyms ain't open. He's been training at home, less motivation. You know what I'm saying? Who knows? He just came off a fight with Dominic Reyes, so it wasn't like he was in fight camp. Hanging around the house, man, outside of the daily routine, very limited activities. The recreational or the nightlife is shut down too. So for those individuals that have that type of anxiety, once again, I would say, okay, John Jones, potentially, he may need an outlet. So him going out into the streets after he had been drinking, though it wasn't a good decision, I could see possibly what he was doing. You know why I can see that? Because I've known to be in certain situations where we was on lockdown, like not going outside. I'm just going to say overseas lockdown, right? Instead of talking about combat, right? That's it. Overseas, you're in typhoon season and the typhoon is on deck. 140 plus miles per hour winds. You're on lockdown. Now you can be on lockdown for several days with nowhere to go. You're not going anywhere. Everything is shut down. You're in a different country. You ain't going to the local freaking Kroger or Publix. Shit is locked down. You're in there with family and kids. You're in there with other service members in housing or the barracks. Do you know how much a relief it is when you finally get word that we're in condition 1, we're in condition 2, we're in condition 3, and then you hear all clear? Do you know how exciting that is to hear all clear and be able to go back into society? You know what I'm saying? To go outside and be like, oh man, shit, let me just go for a drive and enjoy the weather, man. Do you know how that feels? I mean, come on, man. Like a part of that, look, I say 70%, 80% of his decision to go out into the street was absolutely a poor decision, period. I say 80%. Now, the other 20%, I'm just weighing on the side of just giving him some leeway to potentially him going crazy, stir crazy, as he said, being inside the house, being on lockdown, and not having another outlet. That's the only thing I can say about John Jones. Is he in trouble? Yes, he's in trouble. Is he in for the furnace come April 8th? Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, according to who in the UFC can vouch for him again and convince them that, you know, he doesn't need to serve time, maybe, you know, pay a fine or something like that, that's going to be up to them and their legal team. That's going to be up to them, because I'm going to tell you, Dana White has been waiting and helping John Jones. In the absence of John Jones, Daniel Cormier still didn't bring in the numbers as John Jones did. He still didn't, he still didn't have that collective group of fans that supported DC as being, you know, the best fighter, the one that they want to show up to see. Why? Because, you know, John Jones is kind of, you know, degraded that a little bit. You know, DC lost to John Jones, so people was like, John Jones is the best. He's the best, period. He's not in the heaviest weight class, but he's next to the heaviest. So that's why they gave him mad respect, because John Jones' resume, you know, body of work he's put into, and also he's a villain. He keeps getting in trouble, coming back, winning. I hope it's not the end of his career, because John Jones, man, I just hope it's not the end of his career yet. Seriously. Because he's going to be in the Hall of Fame regardless. I'm not sure if John Jones have an alternative with if his full-time job is extracted, banned, taken away from him. I'm not sure what else he can do, man. We might see something more serious for John Jones. Like, I'm not sure if there's a plan C for John Jones. I'm not sure, people. If he's unable to compete for another year, at least he's still good. But if by chance, I don't think the UFC is going to punish John Jones and then allow double jeopardy to happen with him being punished out in town. Because, hey, they're the one who said the same thing about Conor McGregor. To my, oh, he was punished out there. There's nothing we should do here. So that's the point I'm taking. You know what I'm saying? That's the point I'm driving right there. I don't think the UFC is going to punish John Jones for this DWI. I don't think so. I might be wrong, but I don't think so. Because for Conor McGregor to toss a dolly at a truck and then it's inserted into the promo leading up to his fight with Khabib Nurmagomedov, it's nothing you can tell me that's going to say, okay, right is right, wrong is wrong here. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't work. It's not that way in the UFC. They make the decision how they choose, how they see fit. I like the structure of the UFC. I like how there's like a single entity that makes these decisions. I like that. As in boxing, boxing has multiple, you know, areas according to who you up under, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But I do think some repercussions is coming down the pipe, y'all. I think in the current of everything, this isn't just going downstream. Seriously. I just think this is one of those deals where John Jones may find himself on the bad end once again and facing these repercussions, these consequences, man. I mean, maybe he has a little bit of sympathy that may be rendered to him. You know, saying he was going stir crazy in there and all this other shit. But when it comes to the discharging of a firearm, I don't know, man. I don't know if they found a shell casing, man. I don't know. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know if they're doing any tests to see if the firearm had recently been fired. It's some bits and pieces that's left out, y'all. I don't know. But unfortunately, man, it was disappointing to hear this news. It was very disappointing. The reason why they call him the greatest of all time, man, when it comes to mixed martial arts, and then, you know, comparable to the pound for pound list is John Jones, Khabib Nurmagomedov, and then in third is Henry Cejudo. The reason why that is, people, is because of John Jones' record. When you talk about him facing Rampage, come on, Quentin Rampage Jackson, Mauricio Hua, y'all, Glover Teixeira, Alexander Gustafsson twice, Daniel Cormier twice, Thiago Santos, Dominic Reyes, Lyoto Machida, Rashad Evans, who was a former champ, Stephan Bonner, even though he's came such a long way from facing Stephan Bonner. John Jones has been in there collectively with some of the best fighters ever to grace the cage. Khabib Nurmagomedov is working himself up to finding opposition that's considerably equal to his skill set or greater. A lot of people will look at Alexander Gustafsson as being that guy. DC as being that guy. You know, you're talking about undefeated people he's faced. And also, you know, you're talking about John Jones defeating Ryan Bader too. Ryan Bader is currently the champ at Bellator. He's defeated some quality opposition, but yet he's unable to defeat the demons that continue to stay within his company each and every day. And you know what? I'm gonna be honest, just like I was talking about Adrian Broner. I'm not gonna sit up here and you know, act like I don't understand what the process is when it comes to these individuals that's in the fight game, because these individuals taking punishment and they're going through things. Now you have people that just out there that saying, you know, fuck it, they're grown ass men. No, it's not that. You have different influences. You have different situations that happen in life. If you are part of contact sport, if you are part of any type of influence that basically manipulates and causes illness, that illness internally is not seen from the outside. So since it's not seen from the outside, that individual that has it, they have to deal with it the best way they know how, right? So when it comes to freaking mixed martial arts and boxing in general, we see fighters doing things that's considered mischief all the freaking time. That's not to say, well, we should show them sympathy every time they do something wrong. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, don't just be so quick to shut it down and say they ain't shit, they know better, they grown ass men with family. That's not the case. Because I can go back way back in the boxing annals, mixed martial arts, of individuals that have experience, individuals, especially when you have two people that's in the fight game. We had 3 incidents recently of 2 people that was in the fight game that ran into serious physical altercations. I mean, this is no joke. Like, for instance, we put Sugar Ray Robinson up at the top of the list, right? All right, as one of the best pound for pound fighters. You know what I'm saying? One of the best fighters of all time, right? But yeah, he used to put his hands on his wife. That's way back when Sugar Ray Robinson was back there. You know what I'm saying? Carlos Monzon, man, same thing. This dude used to put hands on his girl in public anywhere. And he ended up dying of a car accident. I'm not saying it's karma, but he used to put hands on his wife all the time. It's plenty of boxers I could name that used to do crazy stuff outside of Mike Tyson. You know what I'm saying? Outside of Floyd Mayweather, outside of a lot of people. It's just when your head is being hit, when your head is being kicked, elbowed, when you're going through extreme amount of punishment, every fighter anatomy is different to handle the punishment. And with Jon Jones, we don't know how much punishment he has. We don't know what's his CTE is looking like. We don't know the red and the green and yellow area. We don't know that. I'm just being honest with you. But what I want y'all to understand is that I would definitely be keeping you updated on Jon Jones' situation, on when his court date rolls around. I'm not up here condoning anything that he did. The man had a drink. He decided to get behind the wheel. Me of all people, I do not like cliches where people say, well, when you was in there drinking, you knew better not to get behind the wheel. I can't sit up here and say that because I know some of my people that's in the military that's been combat several times in a bad way, and there's no way they can stay in quarantine. You know what I'm saying? There's no way you can stay in quarantine like this without having a drink, without finding some type of comfort, something to provide you to take the edge off. You know what I'm saying? So with him saying what he said, doing what he doing, I don't condone him getting behind the wheel, but more so, I'm just curious to know if there's an underlying problem going on with Jon Jones, who continue to get in trouble. Like it takes a very it takes an individual of hardly any, how you put it, he has to have very limited competence in honoring himself, taking accountability for himself, you know what I'm saying? To basically hit and run, leave, come back, grab some money and leave again. Like, you have to be a grimy individual to be like, let me go back to the scene as tall as I am and as notable as I am and a celebrity as I am. Let me go back and grab this cash. Already in the DWI before. Then he's out here intoxicated or above the legal drinking limit. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what to tell you going on. I just know that it's a lot of people that's unable to handle this freaking environment that we're currently in, that we're going to be in for weeks to come. I feel bad for a lot of people, real talk. I do. I feel bad for a lot of people that's not used to this shit. Because, the kind of lack of support structure I come from with people who I thought would understand, didn't understand because they didn't want to understand. But guess what? I'm not the one to sit up here and call them up and say, well, do you understand now? Because I know you hating life. Y'all hating life being in this quarantine. You want to criticize certain individuals that's been in this situation by force and, call us robots or whatever you want to call it. But hey, this right here, it ain't going nowhere anytime soon, man. And I really want to wish everybody to understand that don't let it change your life for the worse. Seriously. This lockdown that we in right here, it's only the beginning, man, for some people who's running low on money. And while I mention money, is just the fact that it's a lot of people that was working a certain amount of hours. It was a lot of people that was able to buy a certain amount of groceries since their kids was at school. And then you have parents with kids who really don't care about saving money. They're not willing to say, hey, help your parents out. Please don't eat up all the bread. You know, if you used to fixing like 4 sandwiches, you know, kind of take it down to 2 and, you know, kind of help out. You know what I'm saying? But kids this day and time, man, you know, once they release themselves from the phone or whatever, the computers or social media, they go eat and come back. They go eat and come back. And can you imagine some of the kids, some of the teenagers that's on lockdown in the house, that's driving their parents crazy? It's not fun. I saw a lady on social media today, right? She was like, the dispensary is closed. And you want me to put up with these damn kids? I just laughed. I was like, I can see what she's going through. She said, I need something to calm my mind and all that. See, that's what you get for people who's dependent on that. But it's taken away right now. It's taken away, people. And you know what? Believe me, from World Combat Sports, man, I want to salute y'all and make sure that you get those prayers in and blessings for real, because this is a tough time, y'all, for individuals who just aren't in a position to be here right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about to be in this particular environment where you don't have an option, where you may get laid off, no fault of your own. That is the worst process to go through, right? That is the worst decision you can ever think of in losing a job. Something that's no fault of your own, right? It's the worst ever. It's the worst dilemma that's out of your control that you could ever think of when it comes to supporting your family. And that's what's so bad about it. This is a pandemic where people are being laid off from jobs that they have tenure in, right? And they don't have an option. Like, they rush into the unemployment office to put in for unemployment. They're hoping these stimulus checks, because look, all of this started taking place 2020. You didn't hear shit popping in 2019, really. We had the last fight card on Showtime, and then they was trying to talk about some UFC card. You had the last UFC card, Blackout, that was in Brazil, and that was it, right? Then all of a sudden, this pandemic happens. This coronavirus has been around before now. All of a sudden, it has a breakout. A lot of people talking about how much of an opportune time is it since this election coming up. And then they finally approved the stimulus package. But people, from what I understand, is that if you don't have direct deposit with the IRS, you won't be receiving a stimulus check anytime soon. The ones who does have direct deposit with the IRS will be the ones who receive their checks first. I'm just saying what was out on, in the AP, the Associated Press, right? Just think about that. How are they gonna, if you don't fill out a consensus, if they don't know who's living where, or you're not checking your mail or whatever the case may be, right? How do they know to provide you with the check for yourself, the parent, and for the amount of kids that may be in your house? How do they know to do that? They're not going to call records. They're not going to call school records. Your individual school system, they're not going to do all that research. They want to provide, which they have been doing, a consensus for us to fill out and submit so that they can get some type of accountability. This is tough, people. Real talk. But I hope John Jones get it together. He has the money for attorneys, so he's gonna have to shell out. That's not my problem. But I really hope he's able to come back to the sport. And for those of you MMA fans that's out here, really being insensitive, talking shit, you was the same one that was cheering John Jones back to the cage when DC was the champion. You the same ones that turned on DC and then start cheering for John Jones. Now John Jones in trouble. We got the same people who was cheering for Conor McGregor when he was out here acting a complete fool to come back to the cage and fight Khabib Nurmagomedov when it was absolutely insane disrespect that Conor McGregor was given to Khabib Nurmagomedov, his team, his family, his religion, and y'all was just up here laughing, joking. The same people that was up here cheering on how he disrespected Floyd Mayweather and shit and his family doing the damn press tour. You can't have it both ways. You can't sit up here and all of a sudden cheer the man on and then he get DUI. You say, DWI, you say, oh, he ain't shit. He should be stripped of the title. Again, really, is that how you want it to play out? I mean, because y'all weren't saying that about Conor McGregor, who never defended his titles. Conor McGregor was a champ in the featherweight and lightweight division. He never defended the title once. He returns back to face Khabib Nurmagomedov, the man at the time, the lightweight champ. And he gets subs in 4 rounds. In 4 rounds, he subbed. And the fans was like, oh shit, the same ones that was up here on the group, they somehow disappeared, man. They vanished. You know what I'm saying? They don't have shit to say. Oh, but Conor McGregor comes back doing the Tyson Fury. He changes up his PR. He wants to be nice now. He before, him and Cowboy Cerrone was going at it at the press conference. You know what I'm saying? Cowboy Cerrone saying, you know, you bring your ass to 155, you're too small, this, that, and the other. And then everybody want to remember what he said, this Jeremy Stevens, talking about who the fuck is that guy and all that. Conor McGregor finally returns to the sport and faces Cowboy Cerrone and throws some shoulder strikes. And you got motherfuckers out here like, oh shit. Oh shit. Conor McGregor doing the shoulder strike. Wow. Man, come on. Stop it. Man, y'all being too, y'all, if goddamn casualness has levels, I'm telling y'all on the platinum. Conor McGregor throws a shoulder strike and they say, oh shit, man, did you see the shoulder strikes he did to Cowboy Cerrone? Did you see it? We never ever seen that. Man, come on, stop that. The man went in there and finished a guy that has multiple losses in the double digits. Cowboy Cerrone is who he is, man. But also, when you come and think about this whole MMA game, what I like about them is that they give their fighters a chance that has multiple losses. They kind of give their fighters a chance who's in situations, you know, that's combat sports in general. But, you know, they give them a chance in situations like this. Like if you pop dirty and it's legit, yeah, you get suspended, no doubt. But all the other outside the cage, they pretty much allow the civilian authorities to handle it. They do. I know a lot of people are hoping that John Jones lead the sport again, you know, because Khabib Nurmagomedov, he's picking up steam right now. A lot of people want him to be pound for pound. Henry Cejudo is trying his best to make the statement that he's the pound for pound best. You know what I'm saying? But look, Olympic gold medals has nothing to do with your pound for pound standing. Now, unless your name Vasily Lomachenko and Gennady Golovkin, your Olympic status is not going to matter. So Henry Cejudo trying to make a claim that, hey, I should be pound for pound because I was a flyweight champion. And also, I'm the bantamweight champion. But not only that, I defeated Demetrius Johnson, who defended his title like 11 times, right? But I also defeated one of the best bantamweight ever in the UFC. I knocked him out in 1 round in TJ Dillashaw. And he was dirty. So Henry Cejudo like, shit, Olympian. Come on, man. Triple C. I should be pound for pound. And then you have, I guess, 28-0 Khabib Nurmagomedov. It depends on what they're looking for, man. I don't know what the freaking criteria is, bro. I don't know, man. I don't know what the damn criteria is, people. It's hard to determine who's going to be pound for pound number one when it comes to mixed martial arts. But I know it's a lot of people that's hoping John Jones is punished and released from the sport, so it opens up the light heavyweight championship for potentially a Dominic Reyes to face Anthony Smith. And then Anthony Smith is ranked, I believe, above Dominic Reyes, I believe. I'm not sure. Let me check. But either way it goes, we're talking about people who went the distance with John Jones recently. So you take Thiago Santos, Anthony Smith, and Dominic Reyes. All three of them is not going to be Thiago Santos. I don't think he's able to recover as quickly from three severe tears that he had in his knee. So the only other two that's at the top of the food chain will be Anthony Smith and Dominic Reyes. That's the only two people that's coming off recent fights with John Jones that can sell the tickets. Especially Dominic Reyes, he picked up some fans, man. That's real. And what a lot of people are not talking about with John Jones is his team and the people around him. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people this day and time, the language is that they'll be quick to blame your team. And on that level, you would think, where are your mentors at? Where are the people that's supposed to be your support system? Where are they? Like, really, I just want to know who was there at the line of departure. The line of departure is the last demarcation line that you cross before you entered out away from those individuals or away from your homestay. Where was that demarcation? Where was that line of departure at for John Jones? Was his family there with him? Had to be. He was on lockdown. So his family had to be there. Was it anybody he could call? The whole entire team? It wasn't nobody you can call, say, hey, man, I'm feeling some type of way. Stir crazy, man. I need for one of y'all to meet me somewhere, man, so I can just chill and talk. We can have some drinks or whatever. Get somebody to be a DD. You know what I'm saying? Find you a DD from your team. If you want to go out and have a drink, go somewhere in a parking lot or something. I don't know, but don't go and stop your vehicle so local law enforcement patrolling the area can just pull up on you and recognize who you are. They know John Jones stay in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Come on, man. They know who the hell he is. Jesus Christ. So off that subject, y'all, pound for pound list in the UFC, right? Henry Cejudo, like I mentioned, is number 3, but he want to be number 1. He believe him being champ, he should be number 1, right? It's just not that easy. It's kind of crazy because John Jones right now, he has the resume to be pound for pound, okay? But then I think about, okay, how many championships should you have before they put you pound for pound number 1? Well, I could ask that question for boxing too. You know what I'm saying? Because you look at how many divisions a boxer may have, vice how many championships they may have. You know what I'm saying? Their body of work. What is the consistent criteria to place these fighters in the pound for pound? So Stipe Miocic, as you all know, he rematched Daniel Cormier, and he ended up stopping him, I believe, in the 4th round, right? He changed up his game plan somewhat like Marlon Moraes when he faced Henry Cejudo. Henry Cejudo changed up his game plan and started going to the body of Marlon Moraes. Same thing, Stipe Miocic. They might have been watching film, but they say, hey, we need to change up the game plan. Go to the body, Popeye's chicken. Go to the body. extra crispy. You know what I'm saying? Go to the body. And that's what Stipe did. Stipe started going to the body. He hurt DC, pushed him up against the cage, and ended up finishing him. Somewhat similar fashion like John Jones, but John Jones was with a kick, and Stipe Miocic with punches. But he gained his title back. He's in the top 5. Next is Israel Adesanya. So Israel Adesanya, he wins the title from Robert Whittaker. And then he steps in there with Yoel Romero, who's had the opportunity for a quadro. You know what I'm saying? He's had the opportunity so many freaking times. Twice with Robert Whittaker. Another one with Paulo Costa to hopefully get that chance again. And then turn back around, he gets another shot against Israel Adesanya. And I'm going to tell you point blank, that shit, it didn't live up to nobody's expectation unless she was already asleep. Unless you happen to catch these two fighting in a dream. And, with fighters, they're going to have times like this. But I was kind of disappointed in both of them, really. Seriously. Because for the first, minute and a half or two, Yoel Romero didn't do shit. But Israel Adesanya is sitting at number 5. He's sitting at number 5. The first defense of his title. He earns a decision. 6 is DC. This is another thing dealing with consistency, another area of consistency. DC has lost his title, okay? Both titles. He vacated the light heavyweight and he lost the heavyweight to Stipe Miocic. He lost. Now, I can go down this list and tell you, look, Conor McGregor never defended his titles in 400-some days. Conor McGregor sits within the top 10, right? This is how much inconsistent this list have. So Tyron Woodley, who was one of the welterweight champions, considerably one of the best welterweight champions, smashed Robbie Lawler in one round to win the title, faced Stephen Wonderboy Thompson twice, faced Damian Maia, BJJ world champion, and crushed Darren Till, who was the much bigger fighter in the second round. He's lost his title, but he's outside of the top 10. Kamaru Usman, who defeated Tyron Woodley, sits right in front of Israel Adesanya. Israel Adesanya won his title after Kamaru Usman defeated Tyron Woodley. I don't know what this is about. Alexander Volkanovski just defeated Max Holloway recently. And he's inside the top 10. No one really even know who Alexander Volkanovski is until he fought Max Holloway. Like, I'm talking about outside of the hardcore fight fans, no one really knows this dude. Real talk. No one really knows him. But he's sitting at number 8. Number 9, Conor McGregor. He comes back and fight Cowboy Cerrone. And he's inside the top 10. For a minute, Conor McGregor was at number 15. He was at 15, y'all. Number 10 is Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson, as we all know it, Dana White is trying desperately to keep this fight with him and Khabib Nurmagomedov. This is the 5th time it's been scheduled, people. Oh my God. This is the 5th time that this has been scheduled. He sits at number 10, though. 11 is Max Holloway, man. Shout out to Max. Bless Holloway. Man, good dude. I really hope him and Alexander Volkanovski fights again. You know, Max Holloway had a tough fight with Dustin Poirier to be potentially try to submit his bid to face Khabib Nurmagomedov at lightweight division, right? When he was current the featherweight champion. Dustin looked like the bigger fighter, and he ended up really giving Max Holloway a tough fight. Like they both of them took some punishment, but Dustin Poirier was a much stronger fighter, and he made Max Holloway, man, feel the size difference. And I guess the punching power, you know, kind of degrade Max over a period of time during the fight, and he ended up losing it. I'm not sure if that did something to him, but at one point in time, Max Holloway did, in fact, have to leave open workouts because something was going on up here. They say he might have been concussed due to sparring or whatever. But you never know with these fighters, man, the amount of punishment. You see BJ Penn, he's just out there in the streets doing crazy stuff. It's not the fact that he's just being a criminal, but he was a fighter. BJ Penn has been in the fight game, man, whether it's inside the cage or outside the cage. Unfortunately, that's the life, man, of these fighters. So Max Holloway sits at number 11. 12, Dustin Poirier, like I said, he went in for the lightweight interim, faced Max Holloway, beat Max Holloway. He was trying to contend and make a statement as being champ. Didn't happen. Dustin Poirier goes in there and faces Khabib Nurmagomedov and gets subbed. RNC. He gets subbed. Dustin Poirier has had his opportunities, though. I mean, I like Dustin Diamond Poirier. You know what I'm saying? He's a good guy. But he's had opportunities where, he was able to shine versus Justin Gaethje. But in some of his other fights, man, he just didn't get it done. He's number 12, though. Number 13, Tyron Woodley. He's supposed to have faced Leon Edwards recently. But due to the COVID-19 and the shutting down and all that, Leon Edwards said he couldn't leave this and be this place at this certain time. So the fight, they was going to switch it up and potentially have a replacement. And then I guess they came out and said, you can't have 50 in one place anymore. You have to have 10. So I guess Dana White said, you know what? I can't put on a fight card with just 10 people in the arena. And we're going to cancel this card with Tyron Woodley and potential replacement Colby Covington. You know what I'm saying? That would have been a good fight. I would enjoy seeing Colby Covington step back in there against Tyron Woodley. I know a lot of people say Colby is an ass. You know, he's talking shit. But you know what? I've been around combat sports so long. I've seen worse than Colby Covington. I don't give a fuck if he support Donald Trump and he's all about wearing the cap. None of that shit matters to me. What does matter is this a fight game and you got to sell yourself. And if Colby Covington is going to sit up here and say, well, they was about to cut me. They was about to send me home because nobody was interested. I wasn't exciting. I wasn't, bringing fans. So he said, you know what? Desperate times calls for desperate measures. So Colby Covington turned heel and he started being an ass. I don't blame him. But that doesn't mean he can't fight. He can fight. He just got beat up by Kamaru Usman. Both of them showed their flaws, though. But you know what? I would like to see him fight Tyron Woodley. Seriously. I would like to see that fight. I'm looking forward to see Tyron Woodley get back on track, bro. You know what I'm saying? Real talk. He had 4 title defenses. People always talk about Tyron Woodley was the worst. No. The welterweight, the worst welterweight fight I ever seen was Darren Till and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. The worst, numero uno, people. The worst. Second to that is probably, I can't recollect right now. Seriously. Next on the pound for pound list, 14 is Robert Whittaker. He lost his title to Israel Adesanya, and he may be, in fact, due to compete again. Well, I can't say it because the pandemic is going on, but I forgot who his opponent is supposed to be. And then in 15 is Dominic Reyes. Dominic Reyes is breaking into the top 15 because of his performance with John Jones, right? So if 14 outlets were saying that, okay, we got Dominic Reyes winning, right? And the other 7 no. Why is he at 15? Why is Dominique Reyes at 15? Dustin Poirier ain't won no damn title. Dominique Reyes went the distance. Dustin Poirier against Khabib Nurmagomedov was subbed in 4 rounds. How is he above Dominique Reyes right now? I can see the champions: Khabib, Cejudo, Miocic, Adesanya, Usman, Volkanovski. Okay, those are freaking 8 champions right there. 8 champions. If you understand the male side of the house, you got the flyweight division, bantamweight division, featherweight division, lightweight division, welterweight division, middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight. So they're doing a service to make sure they implement the champions in whatever order they see fit. And right after the last champion is Conor McGregor. They're bidding hard to get Conor McGregor back into a title shot. They just want need it to be the right time, man. You know what I'm saying? They want Conor McGregor, that's competing at 155 right now. They want him to get the right opponent. So from 9 through 15, these are either previous contenders, previous champions, or whatever. 9 through 10, previous champions: Conor McGregor, Max Holloway, Tyron Woodley, Robert Whittaker. All right. Dominique Reyes, Dustin Poirier, and Tony Ferg. They looking to get there, y'all. But that's your top 10 pound for pound, man. You know, John Jones, he's been the top 10 pound for pound for quite some time. If he gets in trouble and gets suspended, that's going away. Khabib Nurmagomedov will move up into number 1 position. Period. That's how it's going to work. And that's what he wants. Khabib wants the number 1 slot. It would be great if Henry Cejudo was a little bit closer in weight to face Khabib Nurmagomedov. Being that you have Olympian wrestler, Olympian gold standard, and then you have Sambo champion standard and Nurmagomedov. It would be good to see them fight. I can't see Henry Cejudo defeating Khabib, but it will be a good fight, to be honest. Now, for the women's pound for pound list, I like how they broke this up, because for a minute, you know, the women were included into the men pound for pound list. And then they finally decided to, you know, the women were, hold up. So the women's pound for pound list is number 1, of course, the champ Amanda Nunes, who's the bantamweight and featherweight champion. And the second, Wally Zhang, who just finished Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and I'm talking about one of the fight of the year and one of the best fights, period, championship status in the UFC. Wally Zhang and Joanna Jędrzejczyk, for real. One of the best. She's in second now. Amazing. I don't see how that's freaking possible. I just don't see why they're pushing these neighboring fighters like this. I don't know why they're not pushing Valentina Shevchenko. I just don't get it. Valentina Shevchenko is sitting at number 3 behind Wally Zhang. Wally Zhang just defeated Jessica Andrade. She defeated Jessica Andrade. And she steps in here and faces Joanna Jędrzejczyk, right? Valentina Shevchenko has already defended her title several times already. In the process of defeating Joanna Jędrzejczyk at a higher weight class, Joanna Jędrzejczyk is a strawweight. She stepped up and fought Valentina Shevchenko at bantamweight and lost. Also, she lost to Shevchenko during the Muay Thai kickboxing days outside the UFC. I don't know why she's sitting at 3. I don't know why they don't show her more respect, man. You know, because she's much more of a sellable entity in combat sports than Weili Zhang is. Seriously. She has her sexiness about her. She's very dangerous as a combat sports practitioner. She has a total package, in my opinion, if you want a female to represent combat sports and still, you know, be that seductive, you know, female assassin, you know what I'm saying? A beautiful nightmare, so to speak. That's Valentina Shevchenko, right? And then number 4, Jessica Andrade. I just told you that, you know, she had lost her title in her first defense versus Weili Zhang. And Joanna Jędrzejczyk she just lost to Zhang. She's sitting at number 5. Rose Namajunas, she's sitting at number 6. If you don't remember, Rose Namajunas, she lost her title to Jessica Andrade, who lost her title to Weili Zhang. Now, Rose Namajunas is supposed to and was scheduled to come back and face Jessica Andrade, who dumped her on the head and took the title. So Thug Rose has said, you know, I'm good now. I'm mentally clear. And she was set to come back and try to redeem her rematch with Jessica Andrade. Number 7 is Tatiana Suarez, very solid wrestler. And she's a solid fighter, man. It's just I think she's had an injury and she's been slowly creeping her way up the ladder. You know what I'm saying? But look, the one thing about Suarez, she had to get out her mindset to come in there and do the lay and pray. People don't want to see her coming in here wrestling and laying and praying. You're going to have to work on your hands a lot better. We don't want to see boring-ass matches where you want to go for a takedown every single time that you get in trouble. I understand that's the easy way to try to slow down the pace. You know what I'm saying? Try to get a rest or try to disrupt your opponent's momentum. I get it, but when it comes to the fans, they ain't gonna want to see that shit. Holly Holmes, former bantamweight champion, you know, featherweight contender. I think Holly Holmes at this point in her career a little bit maybe suffering, you know, a little bit of the, you know, not able to pull the trigger the way she should. Very talented fighter, man. Still has one of the best upsets in Ronda Rousey, period. That left high kick she did after she had hurt Ronda Rousey with her boxing, it's one of the best upsets ever. Jermaine Duranami, man, people still trying to figure out what she's about. Seriously. We thought it was going to be a much more competitive fight when she stepped in there against Amanda Nunes. It wasn't. And the rest, there's no need to even. Claudia Cordelia, man, she's at 15. Very, very solid fighter, man. Juliana Pena is sitting at number 13. I know she had a kid, and I think she might have had an injury. I'm not sure, but she had a kid and then returned. I think she got a win on the undercard, but she's sitting at number 13. She had promise, man. Juliana Pena had promise before she suffered her first defeat. Jessica I, if you don't remember, Jessica I was the one who stepped in there against Valentina Shevchenko, and she was the recipient of a brutal head kick knockout. Woo! Jesus Christ. That just was wrong on all levels. But yeah, that's the women's pound for pound. I think I took it all the way down to 13. 14 is Nina Asheroff. And 15 is Claudia Cordelia. Claudia Cordelia has had her opportunities, just wasn't able to get it done. So the women's divisions, point blank, is they have a strawweight, which is the 115-pound division, flyweight 1 1/4. And then they have the bantamweight division 135 and featherweight 145. That's where it stops. That's where it stops. The men division starts at flyweight and then up to bantamweight, then featherweight, lightweight, then welterweight at 170, middleweight, and then light heavyweight and heavyweight. But I think that's all I got, man. Let me stop in one more place right quick. And just a note, the situation that's going on with the WBC, man. I was hoping that they basically make a better judgment call to return the WBC title the franchise crews deserve. Haven't heard too much about that yet, nor have we heard like any punishment that's going on with Alejandra Jimenez just yet for popping positive on her test. That's the big deal, man. The WBO stepped up and gave it back her title. Why haven't the WBC did that? She shouldn't have to fight for a title that she lost with somebody who was dirty. You know what I'm saying? And then Fury Wilder is pushed probably down to November. My source is saying November, but they saying October here, but my source is saying November. We'll see what happens. Then, of course, we still have Vasily Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez. That's scheduled, but on the surface, they say it's canceled. But contractually, once again, from sources I've heard, it hasn't been taken off the contract yet because it's still pending as far as when this coronavirus will be lifted. So you heard it. You heard it right here from World Combat Sports, people. What else in boxing? Hopefully all the boxers are doing great, man. Real talk. I know it's tough out there not getting a paycheck for the ones that's on like the regional levels and everything, unless you're fighting. These are times you got to go find a way to make it happen, man. That's all I got to say. Like I know what you're going through, man. Not being able to get a check, still trying to train. The fighters that don't have their parents to go and get that home cooked meal. Man, all that shit matters. Seriously, all that shit matters for real. A lot of people don't have backup plans. All that shit matters. Fortunate for the ones who really are some of the priority to the trainers and team, they may get that preferential treatment and have the nutritionists and be able to get the free meals, man, and still continue training and have a fight coming up and stand in training camp while this is taking place. And the other fighters, they pretty much have to fend for themselves, man. I just look at it this way. I don't think a lot of fighters, man, on the regional level, you may see them back in the sport immediately once this is lifted. I don't see it happening. To be honest with you, I just don't see it happening. There really isn't any new news. I mean, a lot of people are doing fantasy boxing matches right now. Hey, to the fighters is out there, man, I'll definitely like to do an interview with you while you're in downtime. Seriously. If you're watching the vid, You know, I definitely, what is mixed martial arts or freaking boxing? I'm trying to always get more education as to the fighters that's out here that I haven't interviewed, or the ones that I have interviewed still. I see it out here. Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua not until February 2021, says Warren. Okay. Gotcha. I'm just going through some articles, see if anything piques my interest to talk about before I get out of here. For a lot of you, I know social distancing is something that's very new. Just hang in there, man. You know what I'm saying? I know it's tough, man, for real. But hey, hopefully it allows a lot of you to appreciate combat sports once it returns. And I mean, sports in general. I know people are missing sports in general right now, but for the combat sports side of the house, I just hope it provides a different halo for you to respect the sport a little bit more and tune in to support the sport, and also those individual and segues that cover the sport. I really hope time like this allows you to understand how important, you know, combat sports is to our entertainment. Seriously. It's a good time to just reflect on that, right? It's a good time to reflect on it. And don't, you know, one thing I don't see on Facebook a lot of right now is those inspirational, you know, quotes that I don't put up there. Like a lot of people always putting inspirational quotes from other people because they're on a higher platform. I don't know what happened to them. Y'all don't have faith in coming up out of this or what? Put the inspiration quotes. Keep people motivated, man. Keep them motivated, y'all. That's all I got to say. Like, keep them motivated. Don't just give up. Just keep them motivated, man. But peeps, hey, be sure to follow me on all social media platforms, man. It's been a pleasure as always. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Follow me on IG. For those of you that really support World Combat Sports in 2020, you know, pass the word. I definitely want to interview, you know, some regional fighters, you know, up to the top tier if y'all out there. Why not talk, you know, during the downtime? Why not talk about, you know, we can talk about boxing history. We can talk about anything that's related to combat sports. Mixed martial arts, it doesn't matter. You know, either lane you want to talk about, we can. You know, we can talk about the now, we can talk about the then, or the future, or whatever the case may be. But until then, hey, y'all hold that shit down, man. Salute to you. Turn up and tune in to World Combat Sports. Be safe out there.